Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I run and drive, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I run and drive, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back. Welcome back to the FPV News with JB and ItsBlunty. We're just sitting here watching. This is not really an edit. It's just a random flight that I picked from Rampage, where I was all this weekend, to share with you guys. A couple of good moves in there, I think. Woo! But you'll have to wait for me to release the final edit of my Rampage video if you want to see the rest, because right now it's time to go to the FPV News with, as I said, JB and ItsBlunty. Hi, Blunty. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. How's it going, Joshua? Welcome back from Rampage.
Yeah, right. I'm good. I'm glad. I mean, I had a great time, but I'm glad to be back. I pulled in this morning, literally. So I'm still settling in, honestly. Bubby. Wow. Thank you, Bubby. Bubby says, flying epicness. Coming from an esteemed pilot as yourself, that's a high compliment. I don't know. Well, Blunty, I have this problem where whenever people compliment me, I always assume they're just being polite and don't believe them. That they
me too.
Thanks,
me
Bubby.
too.
Appreciate it. At the same time, I have a pathological need for affirmation. So it's
well,
really
if you're gonna get affirmation from somebody on flying, it's Bubby FPV.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, and we are going to do a little update, a Rampage update in the news today. But we got a lot of other stuff to talk about, too. What do we got, Blunty?
All right. So this week we're going to talk about, we're going to do our Rampage report. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pyro Drone FPV backpack you took to Rampage. Fell apart on you. You posted a video about that, so we'll quickly go over that.
Yeah.
It looks like there was an update for GoPro Labs for the Hero5 Session. So now it can use ProTune over QR codes. We'll take a look at that.
A big deal since they took ProTune out of the app. Yeah.
Yeah. There are some shortages coming from Diatone, so we'll review quickly a post from them on their Facebook about that. For the people that use Inav, though, I'm sure they're excited to know Inav 3.0 is finally out. I will go over some of those features.
Yeah, incredibly newsworthy. Although I don't fly a lot of Inav, there's no doubt that Inav is an incredibly important member of the FPV community, and there's some really cool stuff in Inav 3.0 that people are going to be very excited for. GQ for life. When did I say I wasn't going to Rampage? If you go back far enough, I might have said that I wasn't sure that I was going. We'll talk more about what made that decision for me in my little Rampage update.
We'll talk about BattGO. This is technology some of you might be familiar with from a while back. Has been licensed to Horizon Hobby, interestingly related to the ISDT chargers. So we'll talk about that and what that might mean and whether it matters or not for the future.
Yeah.
We've got a couple community spotlights this week. Our first community spotlight will be the bottle cap skids we teased last week. So we'll take a look at those. Cool 3D print for your quad. We've also got another community spotlight that's a case for your portable soldering iron. We'll take a look at that as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have these little TS100 style soldering irons, and I think I saw one of these cases at Rampage this weekend. It was pretty cool.
There's a new aerial audio system, two-way audio system for drones called Dotterel. So we'll talk about that and why that might be cool and important.
Yeah.
We'll do our weekly WeBleed Whoop Race update. No spoilers on who won that. No spoilers.
Blunty has been crushing it every week. His team has been destroying in this race. We'll see if he kept his streak up.
Yeah. The DJI V2 goggles appear to have another bug. Whoa, surprise. Appear to have another bug where they're flipping to drone mode automatically. You can't flip back, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so even if you've solved the problem with activating and Cyclone FPV shipped you a drone and you got them working, guess what? You're not out of the woods. They can just, well, you'll see.
We're going to go over the DJI Video Out project we looked at last week. We were less than 24 hours out last week, and this week we've got a bunch more progress on that project, so we'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
And finally, last but not least, we've got Chris Rosser's new video. Last week we talked about tape. This week we're talking about grease, damping grease.
And we put that last. We always try and put like a little bit of a lighter, like a little bit of a, maybe a little rantier topic last. And I got to tell you, this Chris Rosser guy, he says he's an aerospace engineer who designs jet engines. And then he's like, yeah, guys, put electrical tape on your frame. Yeah. And then puts it, and I'm just wondering if it's all a big troll. Anyway, we'll get to that. He's going to turn out to be Ashton Kutcher, and he's going to be like, you got punked. No, I'm dating myself. All right. But go ahead.
So I was going to say, so you were at Rampage, so let's hear about it. How did Rampage go?
Yeah, Rampage. So Rampage, last one was in 2018. And this one, I think, 3 years in the making, thanks to various factors in the pandemic. I feel like it was better in every way. One of the things that they did this year that was a little different was they had the facility, GTI is the name of the facility, and they added these trailer dorm rooms. Like it's a double wide trailer with like 10 dorm rooms and down the side, like little bedroom desk kind of a thing. But if you bought one of the early bird passes, you got to stay in one of the dorm rooms. And I also thank you, if I wrote it right, got to stay in the dorm room. So I had an actual air conditioned room with a bed, and that was nice. But more importantly, like the social aspect of it was huge, because at night after everybody was kind of done flying, you'd go back and everybody'd be fixing stuff, hanging out, flying tiny whoops out the window. So it was a really, really great experience. The number of people there seemed ideal. Every flight line, like, there was never too much of a wait at any given flight line, even the popular ones. I feel like it was just really, really good. In fact, I want to share with you this video. I didn't post this to the internet, but this is, then on Sunday night, there was some live music. It turns out that Erodio does these 4-hour solo guitar sets. Like, he'll just go play at, I guess, maybe a street corner, maybe a restaurant. He just sings and plays guitar. And apparently Jeff Orta can play drums. And, like, whole bunch of people got up on stage and started playing music, and then this happened. Hang on. Let me get the audio. Okay, so if that doesn't make you want to go to Rampage, I don't know. I don't know what will. I said to my wife, on a long enough timeline, any gathering of drunk white people ends with singing "Don't Stop Believing."
Yeah, that's pretty much true.
So we had a lot of fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
reminds me of my days going to music festivals. I've been to a lot of music festivals.
Yeah. I was really impressed. Those guys had never played before, so they just got up on stage and they just started banging. You know who else? Tac FPV. His son. I don't remember his son's name right off the top of my head. Tac FPV's son is a freaking. If you don't know who Tac FPV is, he's an FPV pilot. Look him up on YouTube. His son is freaking phenom. Like he played keyboards and he just was amazing at every song. And then he just got up and played some drums, did some dancing. Anyway, but something not so good happened at Rampage, and I decided to make this a news item just because whenever I've reviewed a product, if I find out, like, there's only so much you can put into a review. And then if you find out that the product has a problem, then you kind of got to get the word out. And I made a video today that the buckle on my Pyro Drone's backpack broke and then ripped out. So
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
it seemed like a nice backpack.
I mean, it is. I'm going to say is. I'm not going to say past tense. It is a great backpack. It was perfect for Rampage, where I needed to just every single quadcopter related thing I wanted to bring with me to Rampage went in there. The flip side is that made it really freaking heavy, and you wouldn't want to hike a mile in it, but toting it from the car to the flight line was fine. But then, so that sucks. Yeah. And Bubby said I was not alone there. Bubby said there were several other people who had it. Bubby said he knew somebody who did it. Same thing.
Yeah, well, that is unfortunate. So hopefully they could figure that out.
I hope so. I feel like the stitching and the buckle, the little strap thingy retainer, I feel like they just aren't up to the weight of what they're being asked to do. Like there's a question of, was this a manufacturing defect or something? And especially the buckle breaking, I feel like this bag is going to carry a lot of stuff. It just needs to be a heavier buckle.
Yeah. So it's interesting seeing like where it broke. It was a very thin piece of plastic to be like if that was able to break somehow, it was holding tension. So
other people are saying theirs is going strong. More power to you. To their credit, Pyro Drone said, we'll warranty that immediately. Obviously, a lot of people are going to say that that's just because I'm a YouTuber. But Pyro Drone, we know they take care of their customers too, and they want this to be a good product. So I would say that, like, on the next batch, I think they should beef that stuff up. It just didn't seem like it should have done that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's all the Rampage related news we've got, Blunty. Let's move on to the rest of FPV. What's next?
We'll talk quickly. So there's a new GoPro Labs update out with a couple different things, but the main thing that I think people will be excited about is the Hero5 Session is finally supported under GoPro Labs, which means you get all the extra features that you would get in your GoPro, including the main one that I think a lot of people will want, which is the QR code controls. So previously there were no QR controls for the Hero5 Session, and that meant that if you installed the new version of the app, there was no real way to change the settings on your GoPro. And you would have had to roll back or do something different. So now you can change those with the QR code like you can the fancier, newer versions of the cameras.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for the Hero5 Session because without ProTune being in the app, the only way to access those settings is via the screen, which the Hero5 Session doesn't have. So basically, they took ProTune away. There's an app called the GoPro BLE Remote app that you can use. It's an unlicensed third-party app. It does work. I use it. And you could roll, as you said, you could roll back to an earlier version of the app if you know how to do that. But just such a dick move of GoPro to do this.
Yeah.
Like, people are still using that camera.
Yeah, it's weird too that they're like, hey, let's update the Hero5 Session with GoPro Labs, but we're still not going to change the app to give you protein settings back with the switch or something.
It's freaking annoying. Even on my Hero 7s, 8s, and I don't have a Hero 9, but it would be. It's annoying because like a lot of times if I'm going to do if I'm not doing a quadcopter flight video, but just using the GoPro as a camera, I'll set it up on a clip or a tripod, and then I'll want to check the framing. And while I'm in there, I'll want to tweak the exposure, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I have to go to the screen. Anyway, that was a news item earlier. We're not going to rehash it, but if you have a Hero5 Session, you can now put GoPro Labs on it and use QR codes for that stuff. So that's nice.
Yeah, hopefully that helps quite a few users.
Yeah, I hope so.
So quickly, we just wanted to point out in our ever continuing coverage of the FPV electronics and supply, Diatone has posted a shortage that they are experiencing, and they wanted to let people know about. This was back on May the 10th, so we wanted to throw this in for you. But yeah, Carl from Diatone has said that they are currently, they're having chip shortage problems. They're causing order delays. They're apologizing. They're working to restock those chips as soon as they possibly can, and they're working hard to find replacements for those. So as soon as they can, you'll get them. But if you have a delayed order from Diatone, if you're missing those in your local retailer, that might be why. You'll see that now or in the future.
Yeah, and we put this in here as this particular statement from Diatone is just one example of issues that are happening across not just our industry, but like I heard a story of Ford trucks rolling off the assembly line with no computers in them, so they just sitting in lots. They can't ship them. They can't use them until they get chips. People in the chat are talking about the Radiomaster TX16S, the price going up by $30 and still being out of stock everywhere. Guys, this is just the beginning. I'm sorry to say. It's going to be who knows? But I'm hearing like at least a year before this sort of relieves itself, as it were.
Sounds like, from the sources that I've seen, it sounds like it's somewhere from like 6 months to 2 years will be, the amount of time. And it's based on like, I guess, fab time that people have taken because they've like overbooked the time. So it's just like, it's spent time for them. So they're just waiting to get on the list of, to get the chips manufactured for these different things. I tried to do a deep dive on this really for like an investigative report, but it's really hard to get good information unless you're directly working with these manufacturers, because everybody's got a different story or different reason why all this stuff's happening. So I think the best thing we can say is that in the next 6 months to 2 years, hopefully we'll see some sort of like rebound on this. And I think what I would expect to see, because there's a lot of new fabs opening, is that we'll see the other way. We'll see like a rebound down where prices will probably drop quite drastically from chips being super available and a lot of competition happening. So hopefully we can hold out for that. That
would be great. For now though, like you're hearing, if you go to DigiKey or Mauser and you try and buy STM32 processors, etc., like in a lot of cases, either they'll be super expensive or you just won't be able to get them. And that same thing is happening not just at the consumer retail level, but at the wholesale, bulk purchase level. We saw that with the Happy Model receivers, where there's a whole separate version of the Happy Model Express LRS receiver that the only reason they made it is because it had a processor they could get.
It seems like that's going to be the case for a little while, but
oh man, Metal Dirtskin points out in the chat, the MPU 6000 Blunty, the gyro chip that flight people think is the best, and it's been end of life forever, but they just kept making it.
Yeah.
Maybe this is actually going to be the end of the MPU 6000.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate, but yeah, it may be. So we may have to start moving to those new ones. I was looking into that. The 20682 or something like that. The actual the sequel to the ICM 6000. Or MPU 6000. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll be able to get those stuff working and everything will be tested out good. But I know everybody relies on those MPU 6000s a lot. So
so the bottom line is that this is we haven't seen. I think it's very clear that we haven't seen the peak of this situation yet. We are only just seeing, like 2 weeks ago, Emacs raised the prices of their products by 15-20%. Now we see Radio Master going up $30. This is just the beginning of this curve, and we won't know when we've peaked until it's happened, but we haven't peaked yet. So bottom line is, if there's anything you want to buy, don't wait. And if you're one of those people who hates pre-orders and you're like, I'll just wait for it to be in stock, we may be entering a period of time where pre-ordering and waiting and crossing your fingers is the only thing you can do.
Yeah. Jonas Wackerhauser points out in the chat, that's the ICM 20689. That's the direct replacement for that one. So, and the Revise S is the successor on any flight controllers in production. I have seen a few. I have to look around for those. I'm not sure which ones, but I did see a couple of them I was looking at the other day with that gyro on them as well. It seems to test pretty well. UAV Tech's got a video of some of that testing for those gyros. I was going to say as well, the Cadex Air Unit, the Air Unit Lite, came out at $189, which is a clear hike in price because it doesn't even have the original camera on it.
Right.
So I think we're just going to continually see this stuff for a while. So.
Revise in the Discord says that Newbie Drone just sent an email 12 minutes ago announcing some Diatone inventory. The other thing to keep in mind is, like, which Diatone is it? Because, like, Hero Psycho in the Discord was trying those new Diatone Basic, and normally Diatone is very good value. Their cheap stuff is pretty good quality, but he was having he had like several failed flight controllers and ESCs on the Diatone Basics, so you may not be able to get the exact part you want. You may have to wait, and you may have to snap things up when they come. So hopefully, it'll all resolve itself eventually, and but for now, that's where we're at. Let me get a couple super chats out of the way, Blunty, before we go on. Michael Hill. Oh, Blunty just left us. Hopefully he'll come back in a minute. Hang on 1 second. Let me just see if I can ping him. Oh, he dropped off the... You there, dude? Alrighty. Let's just give that a second. Here, we're going to go over to... Let's go here. Oh, there we go. Hang on, I have to turn the streaming overlay off. Because this is not that. Boom, there we go.
Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you now. Are you back?
Okay. I should be, yeah. I think the tab just crashed. Yep.
Okay, great. I was going to get some super chats before we go on. Michael Hill, thank you for $20 super chat. Thanks for your continued help in the Discord. Blunty, I saw they were talking in the Discord before the stream, and someone said they thought you probably had the record for the most first builds helped. And I don't know what you're doing when I'm not looking, but that's really amazing. That's a great thing to hear about yourself.
I don't know if that's the case, but I try to catch them all. So
yeah, I really appreciate.
Try to get most of them in your Discord. I was just looking. It's been about a year since I joined the Discord. I think maybe a little more. So
congratulations.
I don't know. I try to help out. I'm happy to help people out. If you guys don't know, Joshua has a Discord that you can join for, I think, as little as $2. Is that right?
As little as $2 a month on my Patreon.
Yeah, you join us Patreon, you can get in the Discord, and then you can ask questions to people like me for a month or more, however long you stay on that Patreon. I'll help you out. We got tons of know-it-alls in the Discord. I like to advertise for us because, I don't know. I think we're one of the best places on the internet to get information for quad stuff, man. There's so many people in that Discord that are super knowledgeable. That's where I learned a lot of the stuff I learned, and I don't know. So if you need somewhere to go with good information, you're tired of digging around the internet, that's a really good spot to go.
I appreciate the plug. I will say, the Discord has grown to a point, like with emails, if I don't get to them all day, I just come back at night and I answer all, 80 of the emails. But with a stream, with a chat server, like if you don't show up and you're not there, then it's all gone by the time you show up. So it's definitely long since past the point where I can keep up with every single conversation. It's really gratifying that there's so many smart and helpful people who hang out there. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
Reinhout Wienholz, whatever. Reinhout, thank you for €549. It was a little while ago, but I didn't thank you yet for showing my weather website in the stream. Thank you kindly. Thank you so much. It's a great site, and we were happy to feature it. Also appreciate your donation. But Aerospace Inc. 53, thanks for a $20 super chat. He and I were working on a video at Rampage, and then for one reason or another, we weren't able to finish the video. He was DVRing for me. I said, hey, will you run your DVR as a backup in case mine craps out? And he forgot to give me my SD card back. So he says, do you want me to ship it to you? No, please don't worry about it. It's fine. I appreciate. I mean, if I was worried about it, that $20 super chat would more than cover it. So keep it with my blessing. Gregory Hurst, thanks for a $5 super chat. Can you make a video about the default model on the Radiomaster TX16S shipping with custom curves on AE and R? It's catching a lot of people still. Gregory, we should do a news item about this. Not this week because we haven't really prepped it. But are you familiar with this issue?
I've heard a little bit about it, but I'm not familiar because I don't have that radio.
Yeah, okay. Let's put this on the news for next week, and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But thank you, Gregory, for that $5 super chat. If you have a Radiomaster TX16S and you didn't just make a model from scratch, there may be a custom curve in your output screen that's throwing off your rates. And finally, Karakin FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Is it possible to have the props spin up slowly, like a heli on ARM? Where would you start looking? Karakin, KISS can do that. The KISS flight controller has basically a soft start mode that looks super cool. BL Heli doesn't do that as far as I know. So there you go. It does look really freaking cool.
Yeah, I would say, put a feature request in over at AM32 or at Blue Jay.
Yeah.
And maybe one of those guys can help you out.
Yeah. Yeah. These open source firmwares may be able to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, Siati FPV says AM32 does it. Siati, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know that AM32 does have sinusoidal startup, but I enabled that hoping to find that it did it like KISS, and it didn't. With what I found with AM32 is that with sinusoidal startup enabled, if you set the slider to like 1%, the motors would spin slowly instead of just twitching. But if you just arm them, they don't soft start. They just go straight to whatever. So they also, by the way, they also got, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Look how slowly the motors are spinning. Oh, this is neat. And then after about 30 seconds, the motors were like smoking hot. Not literally, but I was like, oh, you're not supposed to do this for a long time. It heats the motors up really badly.
Yeah, so to be clear, we're talking about the difference between just spinning slow to start versus like spinning slow and slowly ramping to your startup like air mode idle speed.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, thank you for those super chats. Let's get on with the news. Blunty, what's next?
All right, Inav 3.0 is out. So that's pretty exciting. We've got a painless 360 video linked in the description along with everything else in this show. If you need any of the information from the show notes, they're all down there. But Painless 360 went and did an interview with Pavel Spakowski. I went over a lot of the changes that happened in Inav 3.0, and so we're quickly going to run them down for you. Just the important ones that I thought you might want to know about.
Yeah. All right. So let's. We've got a list here. Let me put that list up, and then you can run it down. Go ahead, Blunty.
So F3 support has been dropped, which is kind of expected, but just so you know, F3 support is no longer there. You now can do RC control over Mavlink, which some of the other things have been able to do. So if that's interesting to you, which it might be for Inav, now you can do that. They've added turtle mode and D-Shot beeper.
Yay, turtle mode, finally.
Yes, and these are by popular demand, so they are in there now. On a plane, they didn't have a D term before. They had PI and feed forward as the loop, so they've added D term into the loop for planes. They say it provides better performance on planes. They've added a pre-arm feature, which did not exist previously in Inav and now does. There's a new improved fixed-wing auto-tune, which I've heard is quite good. It's supposed to be quite improved, so definitely something to check out if you're using fixed wings. There's improved rudder control, not rubber control.
Yeah.
Improved rudder control if you're using a rudder.
Okay, great.
If you use programming logic conditions and you wanted them to override your RC channels to do cool stuff, now you can do that. That used to be a limitation. Servos can output as PWM or S-Bus, so you can use more than 4 servo channels and not be limited. There's improved OSD fonts, and then a ton of other small changes you can review in the GitHub if you look at the milestone changes. So,
okay. Well, that's really exciting. Like I said in the intro, most of my quads are on Betaflight. I don't fly a ton of Inav, but Inav is an amazing resource, and it's just there's so many people out there who need the kind of autonomous functionality that Inav offers and don't want to go all the way. I mean, Pixhawk would do it, or DJI would do it. But Inav has that sort of scrappy open source feel. Well, RG Pilot's also open source, but you know what I mean. So it's a great project, and I'm glad to see it taking the next version.
Inav, I'm not super familiar with RG Pilot, but Inav is more like home to the clean flight, beta flight world, right? It's like pulling things from there. RG Pilot is more like over here, right?
Yeah, it's a whole different world.
Okay.
Yeah, Inav is definitely. I mean, is it forked from clean flight or is it forked from base flight? I'm not sure where it broke off, but it runs on the same hardware. That much I know.
Gotcha.
Revise in the Discord, going back to the question about the soft start ESCs, asks, why would a person want to do this? And I think there's two reasons a person might want to do it. One is that it just looks freaking cool to have them just go. And the other I thought was like, if you're stuck in a tree or something, maybe it would be better at not frying your ESC, that it would detect that the motor was jammed sooner. Although maybe if you're stuck in a tree, what you want to do is kind of go whack, whack, whack. You don't want to kind of gently start up. So I'm not sure that's maybe pro or con. But at the very least, it looks cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I don't know if that torque from stopping versus torque from slowly ramping, I don't know how it would be different there.
Yeah, but these motors don't have, because they're not sensored motors, and they don't have freaking whatever phase control, whatever that thing is. They don't have much torque at low throttle. So the only way to get torque out of this type of motor at low throttle is to just kind of go and that's when you risk frying it. Anyway, why? Because it looks cool. That's the main reason, I think.
Yes.
James Flores, thanks for a $10 super chat. Blunty helped me a lot over the weekend. Thank you. Thank you for those super chats, Blunty. Mike Driscoll, also thanks for 10 Canadian dollars. All right. The next one, Blunty. The next one, I read the show notes, and it said, BattGO tech has been licensed to Horizon Hobby. And I did a video about BattGO a while back. BattGO is a technology created by ISDT where they build it's not quite a BMS, a battery monitoring system, into the battery. It's a chip that tracks things like the number of cycles, and it can communicate with a charger, and it can tell the charger what C rate the battery wants to be charged at. Of course, the charger also has to be BattGO compatible, which ISDT chargers are. And there's been like one battery in the world that has this chip in it, and then nobody else licensed it, and no one cared, and no one missed it. And now Horizon Hobby has licensed it for what?
I don't know. I don't know. But I thought this would be interesting to throw in the show notes so we could at least talk about what BattGO even is, because people might have heard of this. But yeah, I think there's a couple concerns here. But the question is, what was holding BattGO back before? Was it cost? Was it weight? Was it electronics performance? Was it licensing fees, right? And so if licensing fees was a decent size of that pie, then maybe now that is gone because Horizon Hobby now has it. Maybe it'll be easier to get into a battery. Maybe certain things will be better with it, that sort of thing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if this goes anywhere, or if it's just like dead in the water, like, hey, nobody cares still. You know?
People in the chat are pointing out that Horizon's been licensing BattGO for years. Spectrum Smart is BattGO. And that, we're aware of that. Okay. In Spectrum Smart is, like, one of the things it can do is if you've got an ESC that's smart compatible, it can read the battery information directly from the like on a plane. You plug the battery directly into the ESC. The ESC reads like the individual cell voltages and other stuff from the battery, reports it to the radio without ever having a flight controller. So that's kind of cool. I think what's changed here is that Horizon Hobby will be the exclusive provider of BattGO technology going forward, and I guess the idea was previously anybody could have licensed it, but no one did. And now only Spectrum will be licensing it. And everyone else is like, oh, shucks. I was just about to license it.
Right. Yeah, presumably there's a reason that deal was struck, or there's a reason that happened. So hopefully that means, there's at least something coming out for somebody, whether it's wing and plane guys or RC car guys or anybody. Yeah.
Maybe. Not FPV pilots, though. Yeah. These aren't really smart batteries, though, are they? I mean, a smart battery you expect to have a full BMS built in that prevents over-discharge, overcharge, auto-balancing, etc. That's not this.
These are more like a active data source sort of thing.
Yeah. So, all right, good for you, Horizon Hobby. You're snapping up that technology.
Yes.
I have no idea what your plan is, and I probably don't care. Oh, all right. What's next, Blunty?
All right, so we have a community spotlight we teased last week from Bullfrog FPV. He has made drone skids that you attach bottle caps to. This is a pretty cool little idea. So if you wanted, some durable skids, you didn't just want to put TPU down there. He printed these in PETG, I believe, and then snap bottle caps on the bottom of them. So pretty cool idea.
Yeah, this is really slick. I'm really curious how well this works in the real world. I love the idea of using like a commonly available metal for skids, because a lot of times skids are plastic, and as a result they grind away, and then to replace them you either need, I think we could all probably agree that we could use a little less plastic in our life. Obviously there's some plastic in this, but in this case the metal is, I guess it'll eventually grind away, but it's easy to replace, at least if you go through some bottles. Yeah, go ahead.
He has another version as well. If you scroll over, that you could just use a normal, like a 2-liter cap or like a 20-ounce cap as well. So,
if you like plastic more than me,
well, at least you're not using that extra plastic. You're using plastic you already got. So.
Right, exactly, and it's easily reusable. It just screws on there. I was thinking, how does the bottle cap attach? Do you like crimp it on?
I think that one just snaps on, like you would snap it off, like it's a like. I imagine because it's PETG or TPU, so it's a little malleable, so you can kind of pop it around.
Yeah.
And then I think
like if they're twist-off caps. This obviously wouldn't work with like crimped-on caps, because you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely with the plastic one, it's got threads on it, so you just twist it off.
Yeah. Okay. That's really slick. Thank you for that, Bullfrog FPV. I like that a lot. Yeah, I call it upcycling, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Revise FPV asks, is this upcycling? Would be cool for sparky landings, says Synthetic. I met Synthetic at Rampage, by the way. He was there. Rail slides. It would be kind of cool. I've seen these guys. They'll put like rollerblades. They'll have rollerblades or something on, and they'll put on their knee pads and on their wrist pads some kind. I guess it's probably just metal, and they'll grind and skid and spark. What if you could put something on your quad so that it sparks when you grind?
Yeah, probably. Cool. I look forward to seeing submissions of your rail slide videos.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got one more community spotlight too, don't we, Blunty?
Yes. So MJCopper brings us a case for portable soldering irons. So this is pretty cool. It's got an option for your TS100, TS80, TS80P, and even the Pine Sol, which we talked about in a product roundup a while back. And this puts it all kind of in a neat little case for you, and then provides a way for a fold-out holding arm for your soldering iron too. So neat little on-the-go print that you can make.
And I did, in fact, I'm now sure that the person I saw at Rampage, he had a little case like this, and I thought originally it was a case from, I don't know, like an Altoids tin, but not Altoids. I thought he was just reusing another case, but I think it was, I'm pretty sure he printed this one, because he had the same, he had like sewing machine bobbins in here. It looks like those are 3D printed. He was using sewing machine bobbins to spool up a small amount of solder, a small amount of, I don't know what else he had on his bobbins. I thought it was really freaking cool. I love that there's different versions of it depending on what you want to do. Like this one holds extra tips. It's just great. It's just great.
Yeah, very cool.
Just don't put the soldering iron away hot.
Yes. Let it cool down first.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, that's really slick. Look at that. It's got a little holder. That's really slick.
Yeah, it looks like fold out, and then I think use a bearing in there. Since everybody's got a bearing.
That is really slick. Really cool. I'm just enjoying looking at it. Let's see. All right. Well, thank you for that, MJCopper. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So the next thing is pretty neat. You sent this to me over email. We got this is a submission. I thought this was pretty cool. And this is an aerial audio system, a two-way aerial audio system called Dotterel. And this is this New Zealand company. Basically, we're like, hey, like, what do we do if we need to rescue somebody, or if there's somebody like that we're trying to communicate with, and we're flying a drone? Like, we can't only make the drone so quiet, which is what Dotterel was doing before this. They also do stuff to make drones quieter in general. And so they were like, heck, I mean, I guess we have to figure out a way to actually be able to hear the person. So they basically developed this boom mic system with filtering, so that they can hear people in front of the quad from a decent distance away, and actually hear exactly what they're saying, and then communicate back to them over a two-way speaker.
Yeah, and we're going to take a look at an example of this in their sample video in just a second. But I mean, I think we shouldn't underestimate what a technical challenge this is. There's if anybody who has flown with an earbud knows that you do hear the motor noise. You hear a ton of crackling, and if you were to try to hear, like, I've heard of people, they'll land the quad next to a person or something so they can hear them talking. But the minute you arm the motors, that's all you can hear. And the idea of then putting a speaker on, I mean, I guess you could amplify a speaker, but to have a microphone that picks this up and doesn't and filters out the motor noise is pretty impressive. And this is about more than just like rickrolling someone from the sky. This is about search and rescue, right? Saying, hey, are you hurt? Are you okay? Etc. Right?
Yeah. So if you go to about 16 seconds into that video.
All right, let's bring this video up. Is this the one, Blunty?
Yes.
Okay. 16 seconds into the video. Guess we're probably going to want sound for this one.
Yes.
All right. 16 seconds in. Here we go. Okay, so I can't hear a thing.
We can now see and hear you.
What I was just trying to say might have been a call for help. It might have been critical instructions. It could have even been a threat. Up until now, there's been nowhere to tell because all UAVs are deaf to what is happening around them. At Dotterel, we've developed aerial audio, the world's first two-way audio communication payload that allows you to hear what is happening on the ground.
It also allows the speaker to speak back to people on the ground, allowing real-time conversations.
Follow me.
Internet.
The aerial audio payload.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, I'm imagining scenarios where, obviously, you can imagine various kinds of search and rescue scenarios where maybe you're doing a search and rescue and you find a hiker. So you hover near the hiker and you're like, hey, have you seen this man? And they're like, no, he's over that way by the waterfall. Like, that just is not possible.
Yeah. I think this is really cool because this is definitely solving a real issue. Like, this will help a lot for, I actually talked with the fire department here in Denver. They have a big drone that they planted into the ground a few times. I talked to them about flying it for them a little bit, actually. But they said that their goal was to have a way to do it so they didn't need to be on site. Other than like any required observer they had to have. They wanted to be able to like go and communicate to people on site and do all the things they needed to do and then fly back to a central location. And they could save a ton of time and resources doing that. So yeah, this has just helped so much in a system like that.
I mean, the potential for a system like this is even greater if you start to imagine the telepresence capability of companies like, I think Skydio is the company that Redcat just bought. Rotorat did an episode where they flew an acro mode freestyle drone like over the internet, basically. So if you're talking about search and rescue, you may get into a situation where the people piloting the drones are maybe they're across the world or something and able to communicate in real time with people on the ground. I mean, couple that with like swarm technology. What if you could send out a swarm of 50 drones to cover a 100 square mile area with automatic image processing, so as soon as they saw a person, they flag it. And then you could just like log into that drone and be like, hey, we're looking for this guy. Have you seen him? A missing hiker. Like, the potential here is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just super, super cool, exciting, and so I'm sure the edge of what they're going to be able to do. So pretty neat.
Yeah, it's only going to get better from here. Awesome. Well, that brings us to the moment everyone's probably been waiting for. We have been keeping up with this racing series that Blunty, and not just you, but your whole team and many other people have been flying. The WeBleed Whoop Race Series. It's an online virtual whoop racing series in Velocidrone, and you have been crushing it. In week 1, you won. Your team won.
Yeah.
In week 2, you won. This is now we're up to week 4 now. You won week 3.
Week 4. We won week 3. Yep.
All right. The moment of truth. Did you win week 4?
We got second place. Second place.
Second place is pretty good. Who finally beat you?
The Decepticons, they came in second last week and third the 2 weeks before that. So they're up on our heels. They're about 4 points away from us in the overall standings. So it's going to be a close one, I think.
Yeah, Edoc in the YouTube chat says every week Blunty has participated. We won. Why didn't you participate this week?
So we rotate out, I guess, to give everybody kind of some relaxing time. We rotate through each of the tiers, and they sit out each week. So this week was my week to sit out. So
that was something I saw happening at International Open several years ago. I went to I/O, and they were doing a relay, not a relay race. I don't know, a long race, one of those big endurance races. And there was a real challenge because, like, if you've got Alex Vanover on your team, you could potentially just have him race all the laps, but eventually he's going to get tired and get slow and make mistakes. But like, you could have a pilot who's maybe faster but needs a break, and figuring out how to utilize that is a real challenge.
Yeah. So it's looking to be a good series. We're not going to totally sweep it. So it's going to be a close one. We'll keep you Are you guys still informed.
You still up on points, basically? You still in first place overall?
Yeah, we have 27, and they have Deceptive Science is in second place with 23.
Ooh, that is close.
Yeah.
All right, so it's still anybody's race to win, as they say.
Yes.
Underscore FPV, thanks for the correction. I said Skydio was the remote telepresence drone company. It's Skypersonic. That's my bad. Skydio just makes drones. Thank you for that correction. All right. Well, you'll be back in it next week, and I expect to hear that you won.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm sounding like your dad.
I'm sure we will. So we were also missing. I'll just say we were also missing our captain. That's not an excuse, but he was at a race. He was at Cali. What's it called? Cali Connection. Is that right? Yes.
I'm not sure. Okay. You know you're a true racer when you start making a list of excuses about why you lost.
Yes.
That's how you know you're a true racer. Like, we would have won if. All right. Well, congratulations on second place and being first place overall. Of course, we're all rooting for you, but also congratulations to the Decepticons for taking second place. Edoc says it's my week to be the pivot in the relays, so it'll be dicey. Yeah.
Cali Clash is the thing I could not remember. Yes.
Okay, got it. All right, well, we got a couple pieces of DJI news. Blunty, the DJI goggles V2 have been such a freaking roller coaster of emotion.
Yeah.
First of all, it was just, when are they coming out? And then they came out. They didn't have USB video out like was sort of promised, although we'll talk about that in the next bit. And then there was this freaking issue with being unable to activate them and unable to put them into FPV, into the air unit mode. The
FPV experience mode is what they think they call it.
Yeah. So, like, if you had a DJI FPV drone, then none of these problems happen because you just bind to the drone and the problem goes away. But people would get the goggles, they would activate if they were able to activate the goggles, they would activate them. Sometimes they couldn't. And then they wouldn't be able to switch to the mode that makes it compatible with the air unit and the Vista, except if you had the drone. All you have to do is bind it to the drone, and then boom, the option appears.
Yes.
Somebody came up to me at Rampage, and he said, do you know anybody here who has a DJI FPV drone? Because he said, I left my goggles powered on all night, and they ran the battery down. And when I powered them back up again the next day, they had reset. And I couldn't put them into FPV mode. And that was a new one for me. I had heard of people's goggles, like the option would disappear and nobody knew why. I never heard of an explanation as to why. So that's why I wanted to put this in the news. Don't ever let your goggles run all the way down.
Yeah, Unfortunately, I don't know that we know exactly. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, something's going on with like an internal battery or some kind of capacitor that stays charged or something that's causing it to flip over to the other mode or forget some kind of information in the flash, I guess. But this kind of, when you told me this before the show, it definitely kind of snapped into my brain as like, oh yeah, that tracks. Because if I follow back some of the stuff people have sent me about this, it's so hard to know. With so many different users and so many different experiences and so many issues with the V2 goggles, what even is going on?
Yeah.
And it definitely makes sense that this is why it's happening. It is unfortunate, but it does track with the stories that I've heard from people. So
yeah,
it's something to definitely be on the watch for.
And some of this is probably user error. Like Mad Max FPV in the YouTube chat says the FPV option is hard to find. You're totally right. But this is why I'm calling this incident out, because I remember way back when I activated my V2 goggles and I looked for that option and it wasn't in the menu. And I was like, am I looking in the wrong place? Did they move it? And then the minute I bound the DJI drone, it was there. And I was like, whoa, did that really happen? And this guy came up to me at Rampage and he said, I don't know what happened. It's gone. And I said, find somebody here who has the DJI drone, bind it, and it'll just appear like that. And you come back to me, I said, and confirm that and he did. He said, yep, that's exactly what happened. So this definitely was not user error.
Yeah. Super unfortunate that this can happen. I mean, just on top of all the other things that can happen, this is another issue that can plague the thing. Imagine you got Cyclone FPV to send you their DJI brick that they were sending everybody.
Yes.
You waited 3 weeks for the brick. You got the brick finally in. All your drones set up. Everything's working. And then you fell asleep because you're so tired dealing with their BS, and you left the goggles on, and then you wake up the next morning and they're not activated again. It's such
BS. It's such
crazy.
BS. I want to say I'm angry on behalf of the guys who are experiencing this. And in some sense I am. I mean, I have a DJI FPV drone sitting over there. So on some level, when this happened, I thought, phew, at least I'm okay. At least I'll be able to have my shit working when I need to make a video. I mean, I confess that I did have that thought, but it's such a load of crap that number one, that this problem exists, and then number two, if you jump through all the hoops to solve the problem, haha, joke's on you, it can just flip the switch and reset. And it's not super common, but the fact that it can happen at all is like, how can this not be fixed? It's such BS.
The fact that I know stories about this and you've heard other stories about this and then you experienced it on site is like, yeah, it's just crazy.
God forbid you're like a professional, like a Paul Nurkala or a Tommy Tibahia or a Cricket. Cricket's been doing pro shoots now.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's turning into an actual pro. He had his thick side story. He had his thick at Rampage, and it had that Z cam, like a $3,000 something camera on it, and he flew it, and he got plugged in on. And he crashed.
Oh no!
I was like, dude, don't fly that. Don't fly that at Rampage. Just don't fly it. It's not worth it.
Oh, that hurts.
It's okay. The camera was okay. But God forbid you're one of these professionals and you're at a shoot and maybe you don't have a DJI FPV drone, because why would you? And they reset themselves. Yeah. And now what? You're screwed.
It's crazy.
If you are a professional who uses the goggles V2 for anything, don't ever travel without a DJI drone to reset them if they ever reset themselves. Yeah. That's the only fix. It's a freaking $800 unlock dongle for your goggles. Anyway. All right. Well, there you go. Now you know. Philip Rodelic says, thank you for 50 HRK in the super chat. Someone send the V2 goggles to the FPV Out team. They'll find a way to fix this. What about the Devil? Hey, Devil, are you still in the chat? You think you can fix this? Devil?
So I was pondering, I saw that message, so I was pondering that while you were talking. I think that kind of cuts into a little bit of different territory, like, because you need to override an activation. I don't know, it would depend on like what actually needs to happen. Right now, we're not interacting with firmware, nothing about the video out is like touching the firmware inside of the goggle. It's only taking information. It's like sending a bit and then just getting the same video stream the smart controller would. So I don't know. I'm sure if they can, they will start working on that and dig into it.
Yeah.
So
Devil
speaking
says,
of that,
we'll see if we can get a hold of a set of V2s, but no promises.
So in that vein, we'll just go ahead and say we've also got an update for you about the DJI Video Out project.
Okay,
so
let's have some positive news. I'll put my smiley face on.
Yeah. So last week we brought you a story had just broken. Basically, the Video Out Club had built a quick app for your computer, so you could connect your DJI V2 goggle or DJI V1 or V2 goggles to your computer and see your Air unit or Vista on the screen of your computer. And since that time, quite a lot has been added to the project. So basically, they now have a small website kind of just to explain the project and give you links to places. If you need to get to the Discord or get to the GitHub links for all the projects, they're right there for you. And they point out that obviously there's no modification required for the project. But basically now, not only do we have the original project, but now there's also a website. There's live.fpvout.com.
Let me pull that up. This blew my freaking mind. So
yeah,
I don't have my goggles here. You know.
Yeah, so we have live.fpvout.com, and basically this project lets you just plug right in to your computer and use it over the web interface instead of having to deal with an app or installing drivers or all that stuff on your computer. This will kind of do everything for you in your browser.
Yeah, I would think you have to be using Chrome, so you can do the serial interface.
Yeah, for like the WebSocket thing, I believe that's the case.
So if you were uncomfortable with downloading a random exe file, or if for some reason you had some complications with that, now you can just bring up this website, plug in your goggles, and basically just get the video out right there in the browser.
Yes, and I should say, I believe that project is being mainly worked on by Alex Tiernan. And then there's another project by Jimmy Lucidarm, which is the DigiView, which is the, let's see, there's so many projects.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is which? Oh, so there's the, Jesus. There's 6 projects currently on here.
Yeah, because they've got Android. There's an Android app now. There's a Raspberry Pi app. There's the web app. Of course, there's the original, just Windows and just executable.
Yes.
Yeah, A Day at the Range finally delivered, N3 Frame, except it's not A Day at the Range. This is what he was promising to have done, and kind of add some credibility to the fact that he might have done it. But wait,
I'm going to say, no, it doesn't at all.
Isn't DJI supposed to have offered you guys like $50,000 and 27 pairs of goggles to kill this project? Where's your money?
So I'm going to say a couple things. We now know from the way this works and from what we know about the system that it is basically 100%, or at least from my view, that Day at the Range was totally not real. And that's because he showed us a video. Remember, we saw the video and I commented about how it looked like it was spectator mode. Well, guess what? This doesn't do spectator mode. There's nothing about the streaming protocol that gives you blockiness. There's nothing about spectator that happens. So that means that output was fake, and that was from a second set of goggles. Yeah, it is unfortunate. Now, whether that was bridged from a second, I mean, whatever happened, but obviously that wasn't a single output from the goggle. So
I wanted it to be real, but I'm happy that this is real. And you're giving it away for free. I say you. Yes. You've been in the Discord, you're super active. I don't think you're actually developing it. No,
I don't know enough about programming or development or anything. And also these guys are way too fast. By the time I get over there, I'm like, hey, I could help edit the README file. And by the time I've learned how to re-upload a README file to GitHub, they've changed it 4 times. So I've kind of let them run with it. I've tried to do some documentation and work. I made a video about it that you linked on your channel. But these guys have run with the project like crazy. I started the Slack, and that's basically been my contribution other than sharing it with everybody. So
here's what I want, and as fast as these guys are going, it'll be done next week. I want them to get something like a Roku stick, because those things all run Linux, I assume, and to put this software on a Roku stick, so that I can plug the Roku stick into the USB. And then, broadcast over Wi-Fi, the goggle feed, or HDMI out. I don't know.
Yeah,
make it happen.
Yeah, I'm sure they can tell you if that's possible, real quick.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is that if you guys are using this in any way, whether it's the DigiView Android app or the SBC app for Raspberry Pi that came out today, There's the live.fpvout.com. You can go to the Discord. We have linked at the bottom. You can go to the GitHub project. We have linked at the bottom, and there's links there to support all these people. Again, this is open source. This is totally free. Nobody's charging you anything for this, and it will never be charged for. So if you want to support the people who are doing this, you can do that over at the Discord and GitHub links. So
that's
yeah, I just want to shout that out, because again, these guys have literally been like, they're like waking up and then coding for 18 hours and going to sleep, and like, yeah, it's really crazy, and they're all super passionate, and yeah, it's just cool to see. So I'm sure this is only the tip of the iceberg, and we'll see more of these projects come out. So.
Devil says Roku can't be rooted as far as they know, but you can install it on a cheap Android TV stick. Yeah, I just was thinking of the form factor. A small, like a Raspberry Pi, you know, you could get a case for it, but it's not like that great for field use. Android phone, yeah, I would love to have just a little dongle with an HDMI, a USB, maybe some Wi-Fi, and then just plug that into my goggle. Shoot, you could strap it to the goggle for all I care, and yeah, that'd be pretty slick. So I feel like we're getting to, you know how they joke that you can run Doom on anything, run Doom on a toaster, run Doom on a TI calculator. I feel like that's where we're at. Like they're just running it on as many things as possible just to show that they can.
Yeah, pretty much that's what it seems like. I think there's a Jetson Nano project, and yeah, there's a bunch of different projects. So if there's any little stick they can get it on that will do that kind of thing, I'm sure they will. Also for races and stuff, I mean, any kind of like little like preset boxes, like the Raspberry Pi install, definitely makes it easier for someone like a race director to do stuff.
Absolutely.
Like this, so.
I mean, this is one of the stumbling blocks for using DJI in racing. Has been I mean, there's other ones, but has been the inability to not just spectate but DVR for the sake of review, and this seems to offer a solution. I mean, it would have to be proven reliable in the field, but the ability to get output from the goggles seems to have solved that one. So that's really cool. All right. Well, congratulations to those guys, and we'll keep doing updates as new stuff comes out. And you know, unless they slow down, it will. Philip Rodelick says, "Thank you again for 50 HRK. We have seen it running on Amazon Fire TV stick. Oh, that's already been done. DJI Smart Controller, just to like stick it in DJI's eye. If you have a Smart Controller, you don't need this app. You can already do it. But hey, it does get rid of the watermark." Android projector and a Nintendo Switch. I'm going to guess the Switch had been rooted to run Android, which I've heard about. Yeah. So technically running on a Switch. Yeah. Super slick. Okay. Let's go on to our final topic because we only have another 15 minutes before the 2-hour pause that I put on OneDrive ends and OneDrive starts killing us again. That's okay. Chris Rosser.
Yes.
Chris Rosser, aerospace engineer, designer of jet engines, comes along, starts doing CAD analysis of resonance modes, very scientific, and then, Blunty, then what?
Well, it sounds. I believe he started talking to Kebab, and they started going down all kinds of trains.
I see.
Yeah, and so they started testing tape. We talked about that last week, I believe.
We did. That tape helps with frame resonance. Tape. Now, let's be clear. Where is the tape going? Not on the motors.
It's going inside, like where the arms meet the frame. So you're adding just one layer of standard electrical tape there. It seems like 2 is too much, and you cause other issues. So like literally just one layer of tape is how they're doing it.
So what you're saying is Bob got to him. He was like the super smart guy, and then he hangs out with the dentist. And Bob's like, "Hey, guy, what about tape?" And somehow Bob got into his brain. Maybe while he was under anesthesia. No, I'm joking.
What I think is really cool, actually, is that Bob has said for a long time that he's not an engineer, he's a dentist. And he doesn't really know what he's talking about in a lot of things. He just uses what his experiences are and how everything is flowing and what he can find out in his experience. And now his mind is meeting with somebody who, does these kind of things for a living and understands the science of math behind it. So to me, I think this is kind of the best of both worlds, where, all the out there ideas kind of come from Bob or come from Chris, and all these, they're kind of meeting in the middle, and Bob's got these frames he's working on, and he's trying to meet this ultralight goal and all these things. So anyway, we talked about the tape. Now we've got a new thing, a new solution. So Chris has figured out that instead of tape, you can actually apply grease instead of tape in a similar fashion to the tape.
Some of you.
And what it does is damp vibrations. And there's actually a product made for this. It's just damping grease. And I've linked the one that he recommends. And it's got to be a specific kind of this damping grease or it won't work properly. But this is actually meant for damping. And he recommends you put this on there. I believe on the, like where the arms meet the frame, and also I think on the screws that you screw into the arm.
I can't. I believe. First of all, I'm playing up my skepticism because you know, a little bit for the bit, but I can't help but feel like once again Ashton Kutcher's going to jump out and we're all getting punked, but I don't think we are. But this just feels so ridiculous. Like, how can adding grease to your frame make your frame resonance better? I don't know. I guess that's why I'm not an aerospace engineer, as many of my commenters will remind me.
I think a lot of it must be about because the dampening grease, I'm sure, is a specific viscosity, and there's a certain makeup. I'm sure it does something. Maybe it's semi-non-Newtonian or something. Again, I'm certainly not an aerospace engineer either. But I can imagine that it just does something to absorb those energy from the vibrations. You know, that's the goal.
Yeah.
To dissipate it as other energy, like heat energy.
Yeah, and the idea is that you by adding just that little bit of damping between the frame plates, it helps prevent the vibrations from moving between the plates and being transmitted, and basically cleans up some of your resonance modes. So yeah, I'm actually really excited about this. Like, I feel like there's a scientific perspective where you're educated formally, and that's extremely valuable. But it doesn't mean that the only source of knowledge is science, because at the end of the day, to me, the essence of science is performing controlled experiments, observing results, sharing results with other people, trying to validate and disprove your results. And you don't have to be a formally trained scientist to generate scientific data. That's what I would say. I mean, a kid does a science class project that is generating a very rudimentary form of scientific data. I argued this with Jennifer Menas from Brain FPV, who is an academic, and her husband is a scientist, and and she was like, no, the kid doing science class experiment, that's not science. Her argument was that the academic science was the only true one. I just don't agree with that. And I think Bob has been generating science, and that the fact that Chris is coming along and validating things Bob has been saying proves it.
Yeah, I'm going to move between the two of you, maybe between those two arguments that you had with her. And it's that it depends on what conclusion you're attempting to draw, right? So if you're trying to draw from a kid's science experiment exactly the molar weight of baking soda to use in like a thing where people are going to live and die based on that weight, that's not information I want to use. But if you're trying to test whether A is better than B, and you want to do it in a semi-scientific fashion where you're actually controlling the variables that go into this experiment, for the goal, you can get to the goal through a less rigorous experiment.
Or maybe a less academic experiment. And I like to think of, and I'm gonna fail to come up with any names, but every so often I hear about someone who's seen as, you know what the latest one was? You know, this freaking locusts, the 17-year locust cycle, and the locusts are coming out. I don't know if that's happening in your area, but there's going to be a ton of locusts this summer. They're coming out. And I heard this NPR story about this guy who was the first to document the 17-year locust cycle. Over the course of his life, he just spent his whole life studying locusts. And now I have also forgotten his name. And the crux of the story was that no one had heard of this guy because I think he was black and he was a freed slave or something. And so, of course, everyone was like, oh, screw him. But he had no formal training as a scientist. He just was like, hey, fuck, locusts. Sorry, F-word parents. He was like, hey, there's locusts. Wow, just write this down. 17 years later, whoa, the locusts again. And at some point he noticed a pattern. You know, it was obviously more complicated than that. So you don't have to be a formally trained scientist to generate meaningful scientific data. Anyway, that's my rant. That's my rant for the end of this live stream.
If you put a kite up with a key on the end of the kite and you get struck by lightning through the kite, You don't have to understand electricity to find electricity through the kite. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on what you're trying to do with it. Are you just trying to experience it, or do you want to know what it is? And then, there's just like levels to it. So,
Go ahead. Sounds like you have more to say.
I was just going to say that overall, I think it's super positive that we're seeing scientific analysis come into FPV more heavily. And I know there's been a lot of it in the background, but this forefront video presentation version of it, where people can have rebuttals and have conversations and do testing on their own, is like super positive for the industry. And I'd love to see more of that. And
that's the other thing I was going to say. The flip side is that you get somebody like Chris Rosser to come along who has a formal training in this, and you just start taking leap years because you're not rediscovering stuff that people have already figured out. So now it does. So I mean, that stuff has to be validated. That's what I think is great about what he's doing, is that what he's doing is being validated with black box logs. He's not just saying, well, this is how it should be. He flies a quad, and you look at the black box log, and it's like, well, the predictions are clearly right. And also, so that's really valuable.
And also, you could do these A/B testing on your own. Like, that's the other nice thing, is that, we have access to logging, we have access to the quads, and you can order this grease or whatever you wanted to do if you wanted to test it. If you want to say it's BS or you want to say it's not, you can easily take a couple logs and find out if it actually improves the scenario. Yeah. Was it a fluke, or was it actually something that was good?
All right. One more thing before we wrap up. That is that this research is really cool. It's worth pointing out that most of us don't struggle with tuning issues related to resonance.
Yes.
That getting rid of resonance can let you push your tune that nth degree further without smoking your motors. Most of us aren't tuning at the edge anyway, and most commercial frames don't have sufficient resonance issues to require this to bring them to a usable state. So if you're not putting tape on your frame or grease, don't worry, everything's probably still fine.
Yeah, what I will say is the big push for this is like trying to get lighter, thinner, and more like aerodynamic stuff. So like if you're trying to push these sub 250 builds, and then you're starting to sacrifice like resonance for stiffness, like you kind of, sometimes you have to do that to get your carbon weight down. And maybe you could do things like this instead to like cover your butt.
Awesome. All right, let's get the last couple super chats out of the way before OneDrive kills the live stream, and then we'll wrap up.
Yes.
Ron Grant, thanks for a $5 super chat. Can you view video on the DJI Smart Controller on V1 goggles? Yes, you can, Ron. Yep, that totally works. In fact, that's what I did on my recent live stream. And that's it. We're caught up on the super chat.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Blunty, for being here. Thank you guys for being here in the chat. We will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern Time next Tuesday, and pretty much every Tuesday. And of course, my live streams, my regular Q&A live streams, 1 p.m. Sunday, 8 p.m. Monday Eastern Time. They are not actually currently visible on the channel because I haven't made the events yet, but I will. How about you, Blunty? You got anything to talk about?
Not too much. You can go check out my channel in the description, or you can check out the subscribe button down there if you're not subscribed to this channel, Joshua Bardwell's channel. Give this video a like so that we get recommended to people later when this goes up for the archive. And yeah, we appreciate you being here.
And if anybody wants to put timestamps in the comment, that would be greatly appreciated, although I really should have plugged that at the beginning because now it's too late. But there you go. If anybody wants to rewatch it and put timestamps in a comment, that would be great. All right. If not, I'll get to it eventually. Good night, everybody. See you next week.
Cool. Thanks, guys.